Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I am so grateful that you are here, and I am so proud of myself for uploading the second episode on time since coming back. And in saying that, I just want to start today's episode by saying thank you so much for all of your beautiful words and feedback on last week's episode, and especially all of your beautiful words regarding what I shared and opened up to you guys about with what's been happening in my life and in the business. And I am so grateful for my Clarity community and all of the support that you guys continue to give me, whether it is following along my journey on all of social media, or sharing my post, or liking or subscribing, or sending me a beautiful message. It honestly means the world to me and honestly brightens my day each and every time I read your incredible feedback. And this past week, I feel like I have really gotten my mojo back within the business, and especially in terms of creating and having that really beautiful flow in business. And I think if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, you'll know what I mean. There is some weeks where you're like, I am on fire and I am creating everything that I need to, and things just feel easy and in flow. And then you have those weeks where things feel really, really hard. And I feel like I was stuck in this loop and this cycle for the last few months of not feeling creative, not feeling in flow, and not feeling like myself. And it just feels so incredible to have that spark back and that creative flow back. And it's definitely coming across, I think, in the business and in what I'm sharing with you guys and the feedback that I'm getting. So it feels good. I feel like I'm back. And I'm so excited because this week we start the new schedule at the Loft, which, if you're new to this space, I work at a beautiful studio in Somerton Park where I teach breathwork and I do sound healing sessions. And this year we have released a brand new schedule, and I have gone from teaching fortnightly classes to teaching 2 breathwork classes a week and a monthly sound healing session. And this is the first week. Yesterday I taught the breathwork session on a Sunday, and then tomorrow I will be teaching the Tuesday at 6 a.m. class, which just feels so expansive to teach a morning class before everyone goes to work and kind of before the world is awake. And I'm just really, really excited to get into a new routine, and I've been loving having that in-person connection again, because obviously having a physical wellness center and then going to online, which is amazing. I love that technology allows us to have that online connection, that I can be accessible to anyone in the world. But there's something so special about hugging my clients and having that face-to-face connection, and I love that the Loft still allows me to have that, even though I have moved my business to predominantly online at the moment. And so I'm just feeling so creative in that space as well. So it's feeling really, really good. And I'm also really excited because in a couple of weeks we launch another round of Created for the Soul, which is my 12-week manifestation and self-development course. And the women that have been in this course already, and then the ones that are signed up for this round, are honestly incredible. The conversations I've been having with them behind the scenes just make me so excited to see who they're going to become after the next 12 weeks. And to me, when people join my courses or work with me, it's not just about them joining and me being like, oh cool, someone's joined the course. Like, I honestly get so excited for them because I know what they're about to embark on. And I get so excited for me because I get to work closely with another incredible human being that is ready to prioritize their self-development and work on themselves to create a better life. Like, the most inspiring people and the most brave people to me are people that are ready to face their shit, and the people that acknowledge that maybe something in their life isn't where they would want it to be, or isn't in alignment with who they're becoming or wanting to be. And I think it's so beautiful and brave when these people say enough's enough. I actually want to wake up every single day and choose me, and I want to actively create a life that I'm obsessed with. And I don't use that term as just like a marketing scheme, like fall back in love with your life or become obsessed with your life. Honestly, the tools and modules that I teach in Creative for the Soul are the things that have gotten me through the hardest part of my life. And that's what leads me into today's episode, because I want to talk about the 24 lessons that I learned in 2024. And honestly, if I didn't have the tools that I teach inside of Creative for the Soul, I don't think that I would have had such a fast bounce back rate that I had going through what I went through in 2024. And that's why I literally have dedicated my life to teaching you guys this stuff, because it has saved me over and over again, and it has saved my clients and the people that I work with, because this stuff works, because it's all about coming back home to you, acknowledging the parts that you need to heal or work through or honor, and consciously co-creating with the universe. And what I love about my course Creative for the Soul is that it's predominantly self-paced. So over the 12 weeks, you can go at it at your own pace. So it doesn't matter if you study or work or you're a mum or whatever your story and situation might be, you have the flexibility to tune into it when it feels good for you. And you also have that live element. So there are live calls and a live group chat where you get that personal time with me, that hot seat coaching where we can actually dive deep into you and your specific needs. So I will pop all of the details in the show notes if you're hearing this and you want to get on board. We start early Feb, and I am just so excited to kick the year off with a brand new round of Creative for the Soul and to share with more people the stuff that has genuinely saved me time and time again. So today I want to dive deeper into a post that I shared on Instagram, which is 24 things that 2024 taught me. And I posted this on Instagram, and the response that I got was really, really beautiful, but I felt like I couldn't capture the essence of each of the teachings in a post. And so I really wanted to kick off this season of the podcast diving deeper into that. So I have a list to keep me from waffling on, which I definitely do on the podcast, which we're here for, but I also want to really share what I mean by each of these teachings. And these aren't in any order, they're just kind of how they came to me. But the first one is, you don't always have to be achieving or doing to be successful. And this was a very hard lesson for me, because as a business owner, and I think it's just naturally part of my personality, I feel like in order to be seen as successful and in order to feel successful in myself, I have to constantly be doing and achieving and striving for that next goal. And I love partly this part of my personality because it gives me the drive and the motivation to be where I am right now in my life and in the business, but not when it's coming at the detriment of my health and my well-being and causing me to not feel passionate about my job and business and life anymore. And I had to really get honest with myself when I hit burnout in 2024 and acknowledge that there was this part of me that felt like I had to be achieving in order to get people's approval. And especially when it came to the business, I felt like if I wasn't being seen as being really busy with clients or to-do lists or creating, that people would then equally think that I wasn't successful or the business wasn't successful. And I also had to have a real look at my toxic masculinity traits and how I wasn't dropping into my feminine essence, and how I was definitely more in my masculine energy, but not in a divine way. Like, it was not beneficial. It was actually causing a lot more issues with my health and well-being, and in turn in the business as well. So I had to really look at that and realize that that was part of my shadow self, was that I had to be an overachiever in order to feel like people would perceive me as successful or doing enough. And I realize now that it actually isn't successful. And just because you have a busy chock-a-block schedule doesn't mean that you're being productive or that your business is going to succeed. And over the last few weeks, and especially the start of 2025, I have taken random days off to go to the beach. I've taken half days. I've got up at 5 a.m. and smashed out work and then had the entire day off. I've gone for random beach walks or yoga classes in the middle of the day. And honestly, it has made my work day so much more productive. I feel more in flow. I feel like I'm not hitting burnout. And it honestly has made a huge, huge difference to my productivity. So, the second lesson that I took away from 2024 was to stop settling into a life that wasn't made for you. Now, I feel like I started this takeaway in 2023, but I definitely embodied it and definitely learned the lesson in 2024. And I had to get really real with myself and see what parts of my life I was settling into. And a lot of it I wasn't even consciously aware of, or a lot of it was stuff that I thought that I had to have or that I had to embody because of other people. So, for example, staying in Sterling, I thought that if I left Sterling, people would think that the business was failing. But I also realize now how much that space was holding me captive. Like, I was feeling so drained from the financial burden of that space, and also the energy there, because it was no longer in alignment, was so dense and so heavy. Like, I've revisited the town since, and to visit and have a coffee and a catch up with a friend, it's beautiful, but the thought of actually going back there and running my business feels so out of alignment. Like, never say never, but for right now, that energy up there just does not feel good for me. And I used to love that space and that town, and it was honestly incredible and everything that I wanted. But for the last year up there, something shifted in me and therefore in that location. And so it no longer was in alignment for me. And I realized that by staying there, I was actually settling into something that I had outgrown. The same with my relationship. I was staying in a very safe and secure relationship because the thought of starting over and finding a new person seemed so scary and so far away. And now I'm like, I was playing it small and settling in that space for a while because it was comfortable. And the same with friendships. There's been so many friendships last year that I just naturally let go of because I realized that we had outgrown each other and that they were a beautiful person for a stage of my life and for a version of me that I no longer was. And it doesn't mean that we have fallen out or we're no longer friends. It just means that our friendship has evolved and changed because I've evolved and changed. And so a huge, huge lesson for me last year was to actually acknowledge and take note of where I was settling. And sometimes it's in really subtle ways. Sometimes you won't even realize that you are settling or have been settling because it will be so subtle. The next one is that life is going to look different to what you planned, and that's okay. I spoke about this in last week's episode, how I went through a huge change where my business location shut down, where I moved back home, where friendships changed, relationships changed, like all of these different things. And I had to get really comfortable with being uncomfortable and not knowing what was coming next, and realizing that the universe has a bigger plan for you, and that the universe had a bigger plan for me. And even though sometimes it feels like we're going backwards, we're actually not. We're just taking a side step to then go forward. And there's been situations in my life since moving through these blocks where things are just happening so much quicker. Things are moving at such a faster pace because they're in alignment. And I feel like if I'd held on to the image that I had of my current situation and my future, I would still be stuck. And that's kind of where I was at with the business location in 2023 and 24, was that I was holding on to something that was no longer in alignment. And so it was making me feel stuck. I wasn't moving, I wasn't progressing, I wasn't achieving any goals. My life was feeling so hard. And this also played out in the relationship because things just felt stagnant. And it's because I was holding on to the image that I thought my life was going to be. And I always say to my clients, it's like we walk around with these blinkers on both sides, and that we can only see a certain part of our lives, whereas the universe doesn't have those blinkers, and they can see the entire picture. They can see your soul blueprint. They can see the entire universe. So they can see so much more of the bigger picture, but we're walking around like this, and we're blocking ourselves by holding on to these labels and attachments that actually aren't serving us. And so I had to really do the inner work, which was hard, and I had to detach from who I thought I was going to be and what I thought my life was going to look like, and to realize that sometimes you have to feel like you're going backwards in order to move forward. And so I had to really become okay with my life looking very different than what I thought it was going to be, and to acknowledge that this is just a season that I'm going through. This isn't what my life is going to look like forever. And as soon as I dropped those labels and that attachment, everything changed. All of a sudden, all of this stagnant energy and all of these aspects of my life that were feeling really hard suddenly dropped away, and they were no longer so loud and so relevant in my life. And it's because I let them go, and I let go of the attachment. So the next one that I want to talk to you about is speaking your needs to the right person won't scare them off. Now, being a recovering people pleaser, I have always struggled with speaking up, because I have this huge fear around hurting other people's feelings or making other people feel bad for them upsetting me, or not, doing something that I don't agree with, or whatever it is. Like, I find it really, really triggering to voice and speak up. And this has bit me on the bum more times than I can count, because it causes so much resentment and disappointment within myself, which of course is going to play out in the relationship. And also, the other person isn't a mind reader. They don't know how you're feeling or what you're feeling, even if it should be obvious, or they should know. And I catch myself still thinking, well, it's pretty obvious how I feel. And it's not. We have all of these feelings and opinions and emotions that the other person cannot physically understand unless we communicate it with them. So something that I have been actively trying to practice is speaking up, or even just sharing how I feel. And it doesn't always have to be a super serious sit-down conversation or face-to-face. It can literally just be a 2-second conversation where you just talk things through, or tell somebody that that's how you are feeling and that you care about the relationship so much that it's you working on that together, and that you want them to have a deeper understanding of how you actually feel. And if they are the right person, and what I mean by that is if they are somebody who genuinely wants you to be happy and genuinely wants to work on your relationship and wants to make sure that they're not hurting you, they will understand, or hope to understand, and they will actually listen. And it might take a couple conversations, or their feelings might be hurt to start with, but then they come back and approach the conversation again. But you will know the people that actually want to make it work, whether that's a friendship, a work relationship, whether it's a family member, a platonic relationship, or a romantic one. You will notice who actually cares enough to care about you. And I think having those conversations are really beautiful, not only for yourself and to honor how you're feeling and articulate how you're feeling, and then hopefully get a resolution which will help you feel better, help the relationship, but it also helps you to actually understand what you're feeling and to share it with that person, and then to see if they are a person that you actually want in your life. That was a huge takeaway for me from last year, was if this person isn't actually going to honor or respect my boundary or me speaking up or my needs, then that's actually not a person that I want in my life, or a person that I want in my life on a very deep level. So that was a really big takeaway for me. And it's still something, if I'm being completely honest, that I'm working through. Not something that I've mastered yet, but something that I am definitely working through. And I feel really proud that I am actively trying to speak up, no matter how uncomfortable it may be for me. So the next one is health is wealth. And this may seem obvious. You may be thinking, well, of course, Shelbs, like health is wealth. But I let my health become one of my least priorities in 2024. I was pushing myself so far, and I was getting sick like every 6 to 8 weeks, just catching everything that was going. And I think that was partly because I was burnt out and running myself into the ground, but also because there were so many aspects of my life that were not in alignment, and my body was screaming at me to tell me to slow down and reevaluate. And there were so many times that I just pushed through and didn't honor how I feel, and I paid the price of that. So moving into 2025, my health is definitely at the top of my list, and something that I won't compromise on anymore. And I'm talking about all of the health, like the physical, the emotional, mental, like all of it, spiritual health, like that always a huge priority to me now moving into 2025. The next one is having a small, authentic, and genuine circle, which is better than a big one, quality over quantity. I went through a stage last year where I really realized who I wanted in my close circle, and I'm a person that has a lot of connections and a lot of friends, which I'm so grateful for. And I used to always think that that had to be like that ride or die level, right? That like tell that person everything and do everything together and be best friends. And I'm realizing the older I get that you have friends for different reasons and different seasons, and that's okay. And there can be somebody who you love and adore but only see every 6 months. I have this one friend who we literally don't reply to each other's messages for so long, and then we hang out and it's like no time has passed, and I would class them as one of my close friends, but we probably wouldn't share our darkest, deepest secrets with each other. But when we do catch up, it's really beautiful and we have a really beautiful connection. And then I have like my 2 or 3 close friends that I tell everything to, that know exactly what it is that I'm working through and how I'm feeling and what's going on in my life. And I had to also look at my attachment to certain people and certain seasons of my life, and I had to get comfortable with realizing that just because your friendship or relationship with somebody changes doesn't mean that it's going to go away, and that you again can have different people in your life for different reasons. So quality over quantity, and I'd rather have a handful of people that I know if I called them would drop everything and come and be with me if I needed them to, than a million people that wouldn't. So next is your number one priority has to be you. Of course, like you're probably hearing that like, duh, Shelves, of course, but this was a really hard one for me to put into practice and such a huge takeaway for me last year. I went through something where I feel like I put all of my own needs and even down to my own time and energy, I took it away from me and gave it externally, and I paid the price, as I've already shared. And I feel like, the saying, you can't pour from an empty cup, was so true for me in my personal life and in the business. And I really have stepped into 2025 being like, I have to honor my time, my energy, my desires first, and then give to other people in all aspects of my life. And to realize that you don't have to be everything for everyone, and that you will still be loved and people will still respect you, and you'll still be there, like they'll still be there for you, but you have to be there for yourself first. And I think that was such a big one, which kind of connects to a lot of the lessons that I learned. Because I wasn't prioritizing me, I dropped the ball in so many different areas of my life, and that's why I hit rock bottom. So the next one is your connection to your intuition is your superpower. This was a huge one because I honestly don't think I would have gotten through what I went through last year if I didn't have a really strong connection to my intuition and that gut feeling, and knowing that I am going to get through whatever it is that I'm going through, and I'm going to be stronger than ever. And to also see the light at the end of the tunnel. And like, the tunnel was dark and it was very, very long, but I could see that tiny pin, that tiny star at the end of the tunnel, and I knew that good was coming, and that I just had to take the blessings and the lessons of that situation and move through it. But I don't think I would have if I didn't have such a strong connection to my intuition, and knowing that enough was enough and that things were out of alignment, and trusting that gut feeling. And this isn't something that I think that everyone has an intuition, obviously, but it's something that we're taught not to trust. Like, we're taught to trust outsiders before we're taught to trust ourselves. And I think it's a case of remembering how to access your intuition and trusting your intuition. And I think a lot of that comes with self-love and also your connection to your body, because our intuition is very much stored in our body. And I think as women in the modern world, we're naturally not so connected to our body. It's something that a lot of us are relearning. And so I think with that comes harnessing that power that's within us. And it leads into my next takeaway, which was your connection to your guides is your magic. And a huge one for me through 2024 was having the guidance of my guides and my ancestors, and feeling that connection to the universe. And I honestly don't think I would have gotten through what I went through if I didn't have that belief and that connection to my guides. And I'll go more into detail about this in another episode, but I had this incident with my guides which really shook me out of what I was going through. And like, you can't make this shit up, like what happened to me. And that's why I want to do a whole episode on it. But my connection to my guides and getting my signs and getting reassurance from them, honestly, was one of the major things that got me through, was knowing that I was supported by the universe when I was at my lowest, and that I had this intuition and this inner compass within me were game changers. Like, they were the things that made me realize that I've got this, that I can get through anything, and that there was something good coming. I just had to hold faith, and I had to just use this time to go within, and that it would all work out. And I have a really beautiful mantra that I love to use, which is, if not this, something better. And that was a huge thing for me in 2024, was realizing that if it wasn't this thing, it was going to be something better, and the universe showed me that. The next one is, life doesn't have to be so serious. And I was going through like the pits of hell in 2024, and I found that I was just so serious. And I get it, and I understand why I was in that space. But reflecting now, I realize that you can be going through heartbreak and heartache and gut-wrenching healing, but you can also live in the polarity of loving your life and that playful energy and feeling joy and love and laughter. And something that I want during 2025, is I want more play, and I want more fun, and I want to just like channel my inner child and not be this 27-year-old entrepreneur. Like, I want to be this playful, fun energy that I used to be. And when things got really hard for me last year, especially in terms of the business, I just felt like I was so serious, and I lost that real fun, playful part of me. And I'm realizing now that the universe rewards you when you're having fun. And I feel like since I have brought that playful energy back into my life, things are just flowing so much more, and I am enjoying life so much more. The next one is that it's so important to have tools to support you. And I really, really, really believe this. And as I shared at the beginning of this episode, I don't think I would have gotten through all of 2024 without the tools to support me. And what I mean by tools is breathwork, meditation, yoga, affirmations, mantras, somatic practices, regulation tools, like all of these really tangible things that can actually change up your energy, change up your mindset, change up your emotional state, regulate your nervous system. They have been a game changer. I shared in last week's episode that for the first time in my life, I feel like I actually experienced full-blown anxiety. And I wouldn't have been able to move through that if I didn't have the tools that I teach to my clients and that I teach within my course, Creative for the Soul. And I have been the biggest student in 2024, coming back to the basics, having my affirmations, doing my cards, like doing my rituals, and it's honestly been a game changer. The next one is, don't trust the fear, make your faith stronger than the fear. I went through a huge period last year where everything scared the shit out of me, because everything was like, it was all unknown. Like, I had no idea what the future was going to look like for me, and that scared the hell out of me. And I think that's natural, because our ego wants to keep us safe and small and in our comfort zone. And for me, there was like major parts of my life that all blew up at the same time. And if you know me, I'm such an all or nothing kind of person. So it's just totally on brand that that would have happened to me. But I felt like my entire life was turned upside down, not to be dramatic. And I didn't know what the next step was. I didn't know what my future looked like, and I experienced so much fear that I had to consciously talk myself out of that fear. I had to actually put those systems and tools in place to take myself out of being in that fear state and put myself back into feeling into and leaning into my faith. And this one kind of goes hand in hand with your guides being a superpower and being magic for you, because if I didn't have such a strong faith in the universe and my belief system, I wouldn't have survived, and I would still be in that fearful scarcity mindset and space that I was in for only a short period of time, but I would still be there today. The next one is let people support you. This was a huge one for me, especially when I was in the peak of my healing, because I am always the strong friend. I am always the healer, the therapist, the person supporting other people. And I felt like such a burden leaning into my friendships, leaning onto the people that wanted to support me, or even letting people down, rearranging clients or work meetings or missing deadlines or whatever it was. And I realized that there's gonna be people in your life that actually get joy, not out of you being sad or needing help, but joy out of being there for you, especially when you're the person that's usually there for them. And that it actually helps to build your relationship and that connection when you allow people to hold that space for you and allow people to be that support for you. So something moving forward for me is that I don't have to be strong all the time and I don't have to hold everything in, and that there's actually people in my life that want to be there for me and want to have that permission to actually support me. The next one is it only matters what you think of yourself and not what other people think of you. And I love that quote that's like, what other people think of me is none of my business. And again, as a recovering people pleaser, this one was a doozy to learn. I had so much fear of judgment of other people, especially when it came from a space of me honoring my feelings and prioritizing me, and potentially in me doing that, somebody else was getting hurt or that situation would upset somebody else. And I had to stop again prioritizing other people's needs over my own. And I had to realize that not everyone in the world is going to like you or support you, and that you are going to trigger other people, or in order for you to honor your feelings and desires and needs, sometimes with love you have to upset other people. And it's not that you intentionally want to, but sometimes it's just the way it is, especially if you've been that yes person for them forever and all of a sudden you're saying no or prioritizing you. Like, of course they're going to have a response to that, but it's not your concern. And if other people are going to talk shit about you, it says more about them than it does about you, because people that are happy or people that are successful, like, I think in terms of business, like, you'll never see somebody who's more successful than you talking shit about you. It's only people that are less successful than you that will talk shit, because if somebody is successful or happy or healed, they're not going to waste their time and energy, or they're not even going to consider talking badly of you. And the next one is affirmations actually work. And you might be thinking, well, yeah, and you're a therapist and a healer, like, shouldn't you think that? But honestly, I was one of those people that was like, oh yeah, affirmations are great, and like mirror work's great, and like rah rah rah, like you can just try it if you want to and see how it goes. But during this really bad period in my life where I was just like feeling so much anxiety and fear and confusion and heartache, I started religiously using affirmations, especially when I started to feel that anxiety in my body. I had a handful of affirmations that I would just say over and over, and honestly, it was one of the major tools that like got me out of that cycle of the negative self-talk or feeling like sick to my stomach about certain things that were going on at the time, and helped me come back to me. And instead of focusing externally on those things that I was going through, it like brought me back home and centered myself. And I was like, no wonder people like affirmations, like this shit actually works. So I wanted to share that because I now use affirmations all the time. And I think as well, it's a lot to do with your intention. So if you're somebody that's like how I was, it's like, oh yeah, affirmations, like cool, they might work, like, you know, they're just this kind of fluffy, nice thing. Like that's kind of what they'll be to you. But if you are like, affirmations work, then they will work. The next one is you can stand your ground and say no and still be a good person. Last year and the start of this year has been my time of saying no to things that I actually don't have the space for or actually don't want to do. And there's going to be times in your life and things in your life where you have to do it even if you don't want to. But if you're not feeling like it's in alignment or you've got the space or energy, saying no is the end of the sentence. That is a full stop. You don't have to justify it. You don't have to feel bad about it. And again, if you do it to the right people who genuinely care about you and your well-being and they understand that you need to do that for yourself, then they're the right people. And if they don't, then it might be a relationship that you want to reevaluate. But knowing you can stand your ground and honor yourself and still be a good person. The next one is your gentleness is your strength. And I love this takeaway, and it's something that I'm still reminding myself of now because I went through so much in 2024 and so much that honestly I think could have broken me. And I'm so grateful that it hasn't made me become a harder version of me. It's taught me a lot, and there's so much that I have now implemented and changed. But I still feel like I am soft and I have this softness to me, which I don't ever want to lose. I don't want a situation or a person or the world to take that away from me. And people often say things like, oh, the nice guy finishes last, or, you know, if you lean into it too much, yes, there's people pleasing tendencies and things like that. But if you strip all of that back, you'll realize that showing so much strength in a world that is conditioning us to not show weakness, it's sometimes so overwhelming with all of the hurt and all of the unhealed aspects of the human race and the world. I think still maintaining softness is a strength. Still being a good person, still wanting to show up in the world and better yourself and better the world around you is a strength. And I'm so grateful that during my journey, I have still been able to stand in that and realize that it's a strength and not a weakness. And what I went through, there was moments of like, why is this happening to me? And like, how could they treat me like this? And I realized through that it was to do with them and it wasn't to do with me, and it wasn't to do with me being too nice or giving too much or whatever it was. It was just giving to the wrong person or giving to the wrong situation. And I am so glad that that didn't harden me and that I didn't lose that essence, because it's definitely a huge part of who I am and who I want to be in this world. The next one is the importance of journaling or therapy or just getting it out. For a while, I didn't want to face certain things that happened to me in 2024, that I just kept it all bottled up and all kept inside of me. And I know as a healer what that does to your health and to your body. And it wasn't until I just got real with myself and was like, Shelbs, you need to get this out. And I sat down and I journaled for honestly like hours, and I cried, and it was painful, and I hated every second of it. But the second that I closed my journal, I just felt this weight that had been lifted. And you know that saying, like, a problem shared is a problem halved, and that's honestly how I felt through that experience. And I've been in therapy before, and I believe it has the same sort of feeling when you're sharing how you're feeling or what you went through or whatever it is, and that person is just holding space for you, or maybe gives you some words of wisdom. You leave there, yes, feeling raw and probably drained and exhausted, but you also leave feeling like a weight has been lifted. So if you're going through something, my biggest advice is seek support through a therapist or a healer, or get a journal, write it all out, just get it out of your mind and out of your body, and allow yourself to express anything and everything without judgment, and it will honestly be a game changer. The next one is Mother Nature is healing. And I know that a lot of us know that. Like, we know that the earth has natural healing properties, and you can't tell me that when you stand under the full moon, you don't feel that energy or that feeling after being in the ocean or standing in the sun or getting your feet dirty or standing in grass, that you don't feel that. Like, we all feel that. But when was the last time that you actually spent time in nature with the intention of letting Mother Nature heal you? I spent so much time out in nature, and a huge intention of mine before summer ends is to spend more time at the beach and more time on the grass and in the dirt. And I used to just go outside and just stare up at the sun and just allow the sun to literally cook away all of the pain that I was going through at the time. And I used to sit there and be like, beautiful sun, please heal me, heal me, heal me, take away this pain. And then I would do the same with the moon. I'd say, Mama Moon, please show me the guidance, show me my next step. Like, I would talk to the elements. When it was really windy, I would stand outside and let the wind blow away the cobwebs, so to speak. So there's so many ways that you can work with the healing properties of nature. And one of the biggest ways is take your bloody shoes off and go and put your feet in the grass or the earth or to the beach. And I promise you, you will start to feel better in a matter of moments. You will start to feel better in a matter of minutes. So the next one, number 21, is giving your body rest before it makes you. As I've shared a lot already, I hit burnout last year, and there were so many subtle ways that my body tried to communicate that to me. Little niggles here and there, to the point where it had to scream at me to rest. And I also think if you're constantly getting sick, something is majorly out of alignment in your life. As I said before, I was getting sick every 6 to 8 weeks, and it's because there was so much that was happening in my life that was no longer in alignment, and my body knew that, and it was trying to communicate it to me, but I wasn't listening. So take rest before your body makes you. Number 22 is that things have to break away before they can be Number 22, things have to break away before they can be rebuilt even stronger. And I think that's something really beautiful to remember if you are where I was a few months ago, which is in the trenches of your experience and your healing. And when you feel like your entire life and your entire identity is falling apart, know that things have to crumble away to make room for the new you and your new life. You don't have space for that brand new life that you've been asking the universe for. You don't have space for that new partner, that new friend, that new job, unless the old one falls away. So remember that if things start to break away, know that they're just about to be rebuilt. Number 23, the importance of inner child and shadow work. Now, I have done a lot of inner work over the years, and I definitely felt like I had done a lot of inner child work, but going through my experiences in 2024, I realize now that they were just the beginning. And what I went through triggered the hell out of a whole new can of worms to do with my inner child and shadow wounds. And if I was to just ignore those parts of me, because doing that type of work is so painful, I understand that, and I send so much love and compassion to that. But if I had ignored those wounds or aspects of me, I would still be there where I was last year now. The only reason that I have had such a fast bounce back is because I had to face everything head on, and that I just dove straight into it, and I started healing those parts of me. And there's still those parts now that I know still need some love and space and compassion, but they're so much quieter than they were last year, and they're not taking over and becoming this really loud aspect and reactive aspect of my life. They are a lot more subtle and a lot more soft. So my biggest advice, if you are going through something or starting your healing journey, is find someone or something to do with inner child and shadow work, whether it is a book, a podcast, a practitioner, a course like we cover. There's like 3 modules in Creative for the Soul dedicated to these topics because they are so important. So if you are wanting to work on that part of you, come and join Creative for the Soul, my 12-week manifestation and self-development course, because that is what we will be covering and diving into. And honestly, I am so grateful that those wounds came up for me and that I was able to honor them and heal and move through them, because I don't want to think where I would be right now if I hadn't had that opportunity. And finally, number 24 is being grateful and loving all of the past versions of you, because she is the reason you got here today. I did so much self-reflection towards the end of last year about all of the different versions of me. And there were some versions of me that I was angry at or confused at or felt so much emotion towards because of what she went through or what she experienced, or how I didn't love her and support her and honor her like I would the version of me that I am today. And I went through a really beautiful process of visualizing all of those different versions of me and giving each of them so much time and love and respect, because I knew that they each played a part or a role in getting me to be the version of me that I am today and getting me here today, helping me to grow through everything that has been chucked my way through the course of my life. And that those past versions of me are the reason that I am the person that I am today. And I'm sure in a year's time or 6 months' time, I'm going to be so grateful for this version of me that I currently am. And I don't think that we as a society honor those previous or past versions of us like we should. I'm feeling very emotional thinking and talking about all of that, because there's just so many takeaways from last year. Like, these are only a handful of the takeaways and teachings that I went through last year, but I wanted to share them in more detail because hopefully you can start reflecting on your takeaways from last year or the last few years. Or maybe you are feeling inspired after hearing my takeaways and realizing that you might go through some really hard stuff, but there's always an opportunity to grow or learn or to show gratitude and love to that experience, no matter how hard it may be at the time. There's always a reason for it, and it leads to something even bigger than what we can consciously understand in this moment. So thank you for being here. It's been absolutely beautiful sharing some more of what I've been going through and some more of the takeaways and teachings. And again, I am so happy the podcast is back, and I cannot wait to go even deeper into these topics with you in future episodes. So thank you for being here, and I will see you next week when we dive deep into another beautiful topic. Thank you.